become kind of a well-oiled machine, and we're pretty pumped. It's been good.
Well, good for you. Well, look, we're doing this podcast here and I'm interviewing you. So,
I like it.
No, we have a lot of catching up to do, Spencer. It's been, I don't know, 15 years. So yeah, let's, if without further ado, maybe we go ahead and jump in here.
Our guest today is Spencer Pepe. Spencer is one of the founding members of College Works Painting, a nationwide internship company providing college students with the opportunity to run their own business while still in school. In 1998, he was recognized as Ernst Young's Entrepreneur of the Year and was again a finalist for the award in 2001. He is currently president of Home Genius Exteriors, a home improvement company that specializes in roofing, windows, and gutter installations on the East Coast. Founded in 2018, it has grown to $32 million in the past 3 years. Spencer is also general partner in the National Services Group with revenue that now exceeds $150 million. One quick thing, about 70% of the people listening to this podcast right now haven't clicked follow or subscribe yet. One quick favor, if you've enjoyed listening to us, please take a second now to check if you've clicked follow. That truly helps us grow and provide the best content possible. Thanks so much for listening and supporting us. Yo. Welcome, Spencer. Super excited to have you on with us today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I haven't, I'm out of practice. I haven't done a podcast in a long time. Believe it or not, I'm doing a podcast tomorrow for College Works Painting, the original business that Doug and I worked in together. And as an intern for me, they have me coming to a podcast tomorrow. But ironically, I'm rusty. It's probably been 4 or 5 years since I've done a podcast.
All right. Well, beautiful. This will be a great warm up for you to get the juices back going again, Spencer, and welcome to our podcast. And thank you for coming on today. So I'd like to start off with a little gratitude before we get this interview before we got it going. I went back and dug up some old emails that we had going back and forth from 2008. So that would be 15 years ago. And it was just really cool to see because you were the founder and a partner at the company where it really all began for me as a young college student, where I kind of got my first exposure to entrepreneurship. And then again, fast forward about 7-8 years later, you made another big impact in my life when you introduced me to the CEO of another company who was starting up a loss mitigation business when the markets were crashing back in 2008. So I have that to thank you for as well. So I just want to say thank you. Take this opportunity to say thank you so much for having those two big impacts on my early part of my journey, Spencer.
Well, good. I appreciate that. Maybe you remember something in one of my speeches, and if not, it reminds me of something I've done so many of the College Works Painting internship, like the opening and the closing. So something in the closing that really resonates that Doug exemplifies is that I said, look, like the most important thing about this internship is it's not painting. It's not, it's not the intrinsic things of what the business is. It's who you know. I say, look around the room. So typically when we do a training at College Works Painting, they meet 30, 40, 50 college students. And I said, I want you to look around the room and know that 2 or 3 people here you're going to become really close with, you're going to become friends with. And this is the best networking opportunity you're going to have. Many of you are going to go far beyond College Works Painting. Only a few of us have stuck around for 35 plus years, like myself. But I said, networking only works if you do really well at something, though, right? It's like you can make friends here, you can do whatever, but if you do below average here, nobody's going to remember you. Nobody's going to recommend you for something. That's not networking. Networking is doing really well, thriving in the environment that you're in. And then when you pull that card, if Doug hadn't done well as an intern and as a district manager, I wouldn't even have returned his calls. I get lots of people that try to network through me, but it's only those that can be remembered for doing something significant or that really networking works for. So it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. You have to be one of the best at it, and then everybody will remember you and refer you for things. That's how networking works.
That's such a great point, Spencer. Appreciate you saying the kind words about my time at College Works. And, it's funny. When I think back to joining the internship, the guy comes up in front of the classroom and he says, "Hey, run your own business as a college student, and you're going to gain this skill, and you're going to be a leader, and you're going to do all these have the opportunity to do all these amazing things." So when I remember thinking back on entering the internship and what attracted me to want to do it, it was the skills and it was the experience and the opportunity to set myself apart from my peers. But what I didn't realize at the time was, wow, I'm going to also have this amazing network, which you just spoke to. And Jonathan and I talk about it all the time because he's become friends now with a lot of the friends that I'm still really close with from my College Works years, almost 20 years ago now. And the power of that network is just unbelievable. So, and we really feel like with this podcast, it aligns so well with the mission and the vision of College Works Painting. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the origins of the company, how it started, and was it your brainchild? Was it something that you kind of stumbled into? Talk about the origins of the
Sure.
College Works Painting company and internship.
What I like to tell people, at least my origins with College Works Painting, didn't start with me. I'm an improver. I'm not an inventor, right? So I was an intern just like you, Doug. The company was a Canadian-based company, and they had come to California, and I was one of the first interns hired in California. But I just went through the ranks the exact same way you did. I managed for 2 years. I district managed for 2 years. I became the VP. So my path is very similar to many students that go through it, like yourself, in the sense that you start, you're excited, and then you fail repeatedly over and over again. My claim to fame when going through College Works and getting my start was that I didn't book a single job in my first 25 appointments. So statistically speaking, 90% of the interns would quit in our program if they couldn't book a single customer in their first 25 appointments. And remember, as you know, Doug, you had to knock on those doors to get those appointments. So to do 25 appointments, you may have, you had to get 100 leads, and it takes about an hour to get one lead. So it's like so much energy and effort, probably 300 or 400 hours. I didn't have a single book job to show for it. Now, I wouldn't have been asked to this podcast today, I imagine, to talk about success if I was a statistic, though, and I had quit at my 25 estimate. That I've succeeded in spite of the fact that I started slow. I didn't do well. I just, I guess somebody forgot to tell me I was failing because I didn't see it as failing, right? I saw it as this job is completely different than what I was doing at the time, which was washing dishes in the cafeteria on campus at UC Riverside, right? So I'm meeting with customers. I'm dressing professionally. I'm doing bids. I'm writing things up. I'm presenting and seeing work go from a menial task to like more of a business development type task. Although I didn't know it at the time, it was just really fun. Now the joke is I was a professional visitor. I wasn't booking work. I wasn't doing it, but I had fun the whole way, and I didn't see the failure in it. And of course, I did well. I ended up that first year going from a 0% booking rate to, by middle of summer, 50%. 50% of the customers I would talk to, I would book along that journey. So the communication skills that I got through that was eye-opening. At the time, it seemed so slow. It's kind of like the hair that grows on your face, that you're like, I don't see what's changed in me in a day. But, being in college and being in a fraternity, doing speech and debate in high school, I thought I had great communication skills. But for anybody that's listening to this that's done sales, that's not the same communication skill. You can keep a conversation with a brick wall. It doesn't mean people will buy from you. That's a whole different persuasion skills. It involved more listening than I knew at the time, not talking like I'm rambling right now, right?
I love that. No, I love that.
It's more of that, right? So going through that, you have to have that breakthrough moment, not quit at something. And then the rest came easy. I was great at production. I made great profit. I discovered so many things about myself that I was really good at. I'm very process oriented. I made above the expected profit margins. I managed projects well. So I learned a lot about myself that I was good at, but I never would have got to those things if I had quit at the first thing I did that I was bad at.
I love how you stuck with it, Spencer. So you started off as a just like I did, as a branch operator intern, became a district manager, VP. How did you make that leap up from VP to the very top as a general? How did they bring you in and identify Spencer as a GP material for the company?
Well, that is the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? Because really how entrepreneurship works is I wasn't promoted. An opportunity came out of something really bad that happened. The company went out of business, right? So really, I'm like managing a couple years, district manager, VP. I'm like, running my state in California. Everything's going great, and things behind the scenes that unbeknownst to me, even though we're preaching, Doug, that we're running our own business, I wasn't writing the checks. I wasn't like I'm learning and embodying that philosophy. But until you have to raise the money and write the checks yourself, you don't really understand what's going on. So the parent company in Canada went insolvent, and we missed payroll. That's when I found out.
Wow.
Like we missed payroll at the end of summer. So imagine this, Doug. Do you even know this story?
I've never heard this.
So it's probably not a good story to tell to a bunch of interns that just started College Works. But
that wasn't on your watch, though. This didn't happen on your watch.
Maybe save this one.
Yeah, you could cut out whatever you don't want to share. But I'm proud of this now because, like I said,
yeah, please.
At the time, the check stopped, right? And then we found out very quickly that, hey, we didn't make payroll. We're out of cash flow problems. The bank didn't extend our line. And that's it. So the moment that I became an entrepreneur was that moment of being an employee at a high level, thinking I was an entrepreneur, and going, well, I'm forced to do two things: take these skills, go to the real world, fill out some job applications, and go get another job, right? That actually was more terrifying to me than figuring out how to just continue to make what I knew what worked. Like we were doing great in California. The overall company collectively was not.
So did you go to them and say, like, I want to acquire this? What was that transition like?
It's less dramatic than that. It was more like, well, do you want the keys? You can take the marketing material and figure something out. There was no acquisition.
I love that.
There was no
They said have at it, huh?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's a little bit more to it than that, but basically that was emotionally was just like, well, how hard could it be? We'll just keep doing what we're doing, right? And but the big challenges that had I known the challenges that we were going to be faced with, then maybe I would have been scared off. But I just went, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I know how to do it. How hard could it be? We just get to make more money, right?
Let's go into that now, this next phase.
So the next phase is you got to raise some money.
Okay.
So you're like, and I have to also deal with brand management. So how do you go to every employee and say, it wasn't my fault that you didn't get paid, but I'm going to start this up again next year with the same name in the same office with the same marketing material, but trust me, that wasn't me, right? So literally individual conversations with every employee. And Doug, you know how important like brand is for us on campus. Like we can't get kicked off of campuses. We can't have a bunch of students bad mouthing us. So literally one-on-one conversations with every person where I said, I can't pay you what you're owed. But if you come back next year, right, and we make it through the year, we're going to put an IOU there for what you're owed, and I will pay it back to you. That's all I can do. If you don't stay, I can't do it. That's you can go through the legal proceedings of the other company, but that's really not me. And I'm so thankful and blessed that the average 19-year-old college student was mature enough to go, okay, I get it. It's not your fault. You're part of the solution, not the problem. And people forgave us, right? This couldn't happen. I couldn't be here today if there wasn't a lot of forgiveness in the face of disappointment and failure, right?
So you're like a wartime president, it sounds like. in that
I
situation.
just didn't want to go get a job. That's how I look at it, right? Like I'm just scrapping, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
there's that piece. And then there's the humbling reality that you're taught that will raise some money. You know a lot of people, you have contacts, you network. Actually trying to get money out of people, very hard. Actually going to a bank and convincing them to give us money, when you have no track record. I mean, you're an employee, but no track record of companies. And all of us we're talking about, I'm 22 years old at this point, right?
Oh my
So
goodness.
what assets? What am I going to borrow against? Banks just like, you don't present your college business plan and say, give me money. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to go to friends and family. And that was very difficult and arduous. And to be honest, I raised very little. I got really lucky. A cousin of mine, Matt Totosian, had come into some inheritance from an from an uncle of ours, that my uncle, his dad, passed, and he had no clue what to do with his money. So he gave me $400,000 blindly, when banks wouldn't, and I said I'd give him a really high rate of return, and he's still the original investor, and he's still getting a high rate of return, higher than our banks give us. Put it that way.
I
Oh
love that.
wow.
So
That
so
is
yeah.
Very
awesome.
cool.
So but for the most part, really, I just stopped paying my own bills. I didn't pay my mortgage. I didn't pay my car payment. All that got repossessed, to make it through that first year. But we did it. We made it through that year. We restarted the company and learned a lot along the way. So, but that was that moment. Either I've never filled out a job application. I've never done a resume. That was more stressful for me to think that I was going to go through that process than just, no, I'm just going to do it for myself. I don't want to play that game.
That's really incredible for a 22-year-old to be able to step into that situation and manage the company through that crisis and basically oversee the rebirth of the company.
It's more, yeah, like I said, it's more naivete, and I think complacency that I just didn't want to go to corporate America. To be honest, it's
Yeah.
like, as entrepreneurs, I think we get to set our own schedule. So I tricked myself all the time that I'm working less. But if I had to work for somebody else and have them pick the 12 hours a day that I work, as opposed to me picking the 12 hours a day that I work, that feels like work to me. So I just didn't want my life ruled that way. And I've had years where I work 6 hours a day and kind of cruise through things, especially some of the college works years, Doug, because I was at it for so long. Anytime we start something new, then you're back to the 12 to 16-hour days. But
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, I was like, wow, corporate America, they're going to pay me, 1/5 of what I'm making, and I gotta work twice as hard. That I don't want to sign up for that.
I think all three of us can definitely that resonates with all of us. So it's been a long time, Spencer, since you and I last caught up. What does your career look like over these last 10 to 15 years? So you told us about what it was in your early 20s and what you were able to pull off all those years ago. What's the last 10 to 15 look like for you in your career?
Yeah. So College Works obviously, had a rebirth, and we grew that company up to $35 million. In the last 10 years, that business has kind of plateaued, even shrunk a bit. And because it's such the same process for so long, there's 5 partners in my organization, and we've all over those years had to branch off and go, well, we don't all need to just run this business. Why don't we take this platform of great people, and not all of them want to be student painters forever, right? So a lot of times we realize as leaders that we have to get out of the way of our young people that are more aggressive, better than us, more aggressive than us. Just listen they tell us what they want to do, and we're like, okay, then each one of us have split off. Empire Community Painting and Construction was really a. Did you go to UCSB or UCLA, Doug?
SB.
Okay, so Mike Profan is a UCSB alumni.
Oh, okay.
Had gone through the ranks of being a manager, a district manager, and a VP. He expanded up to Pacific Northwest, but he really just said one day, I'm bored. I don't like, this isn't my path. I want to build something bigger, different. The funny thing is, we're like, whatever you do, we're going to invest, and we're going we're going to do? And he's like, well, I want to run a painting business. I'm like, well, that sounds pretty familiar, but I want to do it on the commercial side of things. So let's buy some
Yeah.
trucks and get out there and book some bigger jobs. I don't want to do $2,500 jobs. I want to do $250,000 jobs. And that's blossomed into a construction company dealing mainly with HOAs and property managers on a very large scale all through the country. That's our largest channel of business now. But again, we had to get out of the way for somebody that had a vision and a plan and help capitalize and mentor them to that plan. So two of my partners, Mike Profon and Jason Reed, run that channel of business. Myself and Jeff Gunnis, we branched off of College Works really just in the last 4 years. So there was this period of Empire was taking a life of its own. It's been around for over 15 years now. It's actually just had its 20th anniversary. So
wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
So that's our largest market, our most mature business right now is in that space, doing about $100 million this last year. And then Home Genius is now more what I'm involved with today at the company. And it was a roofing and gutters, but it's a contracting business. It's still not far from the DNA that we're at. And all the VPs that are running it were VPs at College Works, right? So we took that DNA. And again, these guys, same thing. They're like, I don't want to do the College Works thing, but I want to grow something different. I see these home improvement companies out of my backyard. This is all on the East Coast that are doing $20 million. And there's a company called Power out there that knocks on doors and signs up people for free roofing estimates. So similar to our DNA, doing over $1 billion. So we're like, wow, there's some big fish here. Maybe we should put our talents over in this area. So that's, and then we've had tremendous growth. This in the last 4 years. We're not $1 billion yet, but we are the fastest growing home improvement company in the last 4 years. So we've gone from 2 million to 35 million in the last 4 years, and we're poised to probably do $50 to $70 million this year.
What amazing growth! It's your DNA, how you're able to kind of grow the companies, but utilizing the team that you've developed and built in the prior companies. I think that's such a unique thing that we've heard. This is the first time we've heard that on the podcast.
You have to get out of the way. You have to let these guys carry the torch and do it. Because, we're old, we got families, we got kids, we got 100 excuses on why we can't work as hard as these guys. So these guys drive the business, and we're the capitalization, the ops support behind it, and the money.
One of the things that you had just referenced was how you really, when you started out College Works, going back to those 22-year-old, how did you know, at what point did you say all right, we're past this grind up, restarting the company phase? Can you take us back to that moment when you're like, all right, we have made it now. College Works reboot is now safe, and we're going to do this thing?
Well, it starts with getting your own house in order. In order to do that, I destroyed my credit, right? So I destroyed my credit. My car got repossessed. My house got repossessed. So you find yourself in these early years of not being bankable, having to put every dime of money. I was living on $1,500 a month for so long, and trying to preach success, but my own house was not in order. And it took several years of that. But what I learned through that, and I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Millionaire Next Door, that I emerged out of that because nobody would give me personal debt. I learned to live without it. I don't have a single credit card payment. I don't have a car payment. The only thing that I have financed in my personal life since that first setback of having no credit is real estate, only an appreciating asset, right? So once my credit came back in order and I became more bankable, I've been able to save a lot of money and be in a situation to where it's losing your credit is a favor. If you can get through it and figure out how to not leverage yourself in your personal life, that's half the battle right there. And then, I'm super bankable now. I have eight 880 credit score when I was a 550. And I'm telling you, it's like those things are important, like banking relationship. Now for us, we can call the bank and, we raised our limit just last week from one phone call from 27 million to 32 million on our bank line. It's like, yeah, this is why. Okay. Right. It's like, I couldn't have raised 32 cents back when my house wasn't in order. So, that was really probably the most important thing. 3 or 4 years of doing that, and stabilizing and getting my own house in order was important, because then it looks easy. It looks easy once you get through those first stages.
Yeah, Doug and I had a similar struggle of when we were starting out on our own, kind of not getting paychecks aren't coming in. You're trying to figure out what path you're going to go down, and you start kind of thinking like, this is getting scary. This is starting to get real. Can you take us back to when you were rolling with CollegeWorks and now you start a couple other companies? What are the principles that you would recommend entrepreneurs that you've learned now, that 3-4 companies it sounds like you've built? What are the core principles that you would say these are the really important things when you're starting out a company that you should be doing?
Well, one, like I said, you only want to be thinly capitalized the first time, right? So you get very mature of knowing what the cash flow needs are. That's really important. It really, and our CFO helps with that, right? So having a controller or a CFO that you've really got to be able to spell it out and know where that pain point is in cash flow, and you got to have the money raised to have it, because you can't, except for your first time, you can't live in a world of constant, like, I don't know how we're going to pay bills next week, and I got to collect this one receivable to get that. It's maddening. You're not really running your business. You're just playing bill collector, and also apologist for the bills you don't want to pay. So right, you're avoiding and scrambling to collect. So, I think capitalization is really important. Not all businesses require the same, so you have to understand what that is. Like at CollegeWorks Painting, it's a business that only makes 3 months of the year. So the other 9 months of the year, you have to realize no money's coming in. But actually, compared to Empire, there's nothing in cash flow, because when you're in like construction, for example, people are paying 90, 120 days. You're putting huge amount of expenses. Maybe you have, say, 20% of gross profit. So that means 80% you're paying out 2 months before you even put the invoice out. And then they may take you 3 months to pay. So you're 5 months in. If you don't, like a lot of construction companies, they actually implode when they're at their best. When they're growing, they took on one too many clients than they could. And they just can't get paid fast enough. So that's the most important thing, is knowing what that is, and what you need, and having the ability to raise that money or borrow that money. It's hard to grow past. You either have to be really small and then none of this matters because you're the only employee. Like, you can be really small, but if you want to be big, you've got to have cash management. You got to have cash behind you to do it.
Looking back to your early 20s, Spencer, what would you say, other than, trying to stay out of debt and not let your own house burn down, like you said, what would you say to 20, 22, 25-year-old Spencer, to try to help avoid some of those mistakes and pitfalls that you encountered at that time?
Well, I think the main thing is, like what I referenced, is stay really small at first. You like do every job, right? Just stay small. See if you can. You've got to recognize, is this a business that I can start a client's job on a Monday and get paid on a Friday, or get paid within 30 days. You don't be afraid to be small and make really good money at first, right? Because what you're doing in all that is you're also building metrics around everything to show somebody that this is replicatable, right? So I think people want to be big. They get ahead of themselves too quick, right? You can actually make really good money being small. I've always said, I'm like, I said, for all the College Works alumni out there that may or may not watch this, I always say, hey, we always know how to paint a house, guys. If you all start over again, go out tomorrow, knock on a door, paint the house yourself. You know how to bid it. You could paint it yourself and probably pay yourself $80 an hour, because you have all the markup, you have no accounting, you have no marketing. You could do that in 1 hour. You could create a $5,000 job. Sometimes but you have to do that and be really scrappy. And if it's something new that you don't know, you do that because you have to build every metric and model. And when you go to manage the business, though, you're like, I've done it all. I've done all parts of it, right? The scariest thing for me is technology, right? Like I can't run a technology company because I can't tell you how long it would take a programmer to write a program. Like if you don't know, in construction, I can. Like if you don't know how long it takes to do something, how are you going to manage the whole process in your business, or hire someone to manage that process and know if they're feeding you a line of bull or the reality of why are we over budget on this project?
Yeah, that's such an important thing. Yeah, stay in your lane, know what you're good at. And what's interesting about College Works is that I think it really does take a pretty diverse skill set. Like you were talking about, you're doing sales, you're managing a team with operations, you have inventory you're dealing with. So it is a little bit more comprehensive, diverse, but that's what gave you the opportunity to then go off and do all these other businesses because you learned all of the basics in those early years.
But it's interesting that you said that it's complicated and diverse, but we teach it to students because it's actually very easy, right? But if I had not learned how to be a good painter, and when I say that is like when we teach our interns, well, how do you beat budget? Well, I'm like, it starts with, can you pick up a paintbrush? And if everything, or if you're a mechanic at a car place and it says it takes 1 hour to change the alternator, well, it takes 1 hour to paint a door or a window. If you can't pick it up and do it in that hour or less, your foundation's built on sand, right? I could pick up the paintbrush and do it in an hour. I could spray a whole house in 4 hours, right? It's like, so whatever concept I was trying to do and doing it, it starts with, yeah, but can you mechanically do the job that your whole company's built on? It's labor. It's time and motion. It's everything has to be done at a certain standard of practice, standard of performance, right?
Yeah, I think this is such a special episode because of how big of an impact you had on my co-host and best friend. And the cherry on top is that you have this really badass, inspiring success story of sort of building up teams and replicating really good ideas and finding niches in the market that work out so well. We all have our own path to finding freedom, but we love and appreciate that you were able to share yours today. We'll finish here on this. Do you have any one final piece of tidbit of entrepreneur advice that you would give our audience that you think is most critical when they're starting out?
So let's see. Other than what I've given so far, I would say that when you're on your path and you're trying to be great, right? Whatever you're like, this is the epitome of what success is. My bar was really low. I remember saying to myself is that, look, I'm not trying to be a billionaire. If I could just make $100,000 a year and have no debt, right, then I'll be happy. Like I'd rather work less. So I always tell people this isn't about having to give your life and soul to be an entrepreneur. I really don't. I've had so many years where I've worked. I take about 3 months off a year. I travel. I have a lot of. I could spend more time telling you about my hobbies and activities than business. Business isn't always even fun to talk about compared to fishing or diving or some of the other stuff that I do. But I will tell you this, that what excellence is that once you get to 100,000, you'll just set a new goal. Well, then it's 200,000 and then it's 1 million. And then you realize how much taxes is taken out on 1 million. And like you'll keep setting, like, whatever you think your goal is, you'll keep resetting it because man by nature is insatiable, right? And it's not just about money, it's about living a full life, right? So whatever that is, once you achieve it, you're going to be like, well, I could do more. I could be more full. I could be a better dad. I could be a better businessman. I could be a better free diver, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You achieve that and just set new goals. But start small. Get your hands dirty.
I love that. I love the insatiable nature of man that you touched on there. I think I think we all feel that, and a lot of the people listening have that insatiable thirst to find success and find their freedom. So, Spencer, thank you so much for coming on today. You've been great, man. It's been a long time since we last connected, and I want to thank you once again for all the impact that you've had on my life personally. I don't know where I would be now if it weren't for the touches that you've had on my life. So thank you, and look forward to catching up with you again in the future.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you hearing me, the sound of my voice. So there you go.
Hello, you killed it. Great job. Yo. It's Jonathan again. One last thing. If you've enjoyed listening to us, please take a second now to check if you've clicked follow. That truly helps us grow and provide the best content possible. We really appreciate you supporting us and listening.